Ms. Merchant, you are suing your son, Mr. Merchant, for $4,500, which you claim is the balance of a loan that you extended to him that he has not repaid, and interest on that loan, since it remains on your credit card, accruing interest to this day.
Right.
You claim that your son called you last summer and said his wife was leaving him and taking the kids, and he needed help with an attorney. You immediately jumped in to help. You put a $5,000 retainer on your credit card, and he promised he would pay it back.
Yes.
After only a few weeks, couple months, you learned that he and his wife were getting back together, and he was dragging his feet on paying you back. So to date, you claim he still owes you $4,025 on the loan, and you're asking for $4,500 here today, which includes an additional $475 in interest. Mr. Merchant, you claim, number one, that she gratuitously offered this to help you out, as opposed to specifically documenting a loan. And you also claim that you've in fact paid her back almost half of the loan. You claim that if it's still on her credit card, that's her problem, and that at this point you feel like you just shouldn't owe her anything. Ms. Merchant, you told us that your son was your best friend for the first 18 years of his life. Tell me about your relationship with him.
We've never had issues. I don't know. I mean, John sees it very differently than me. I've always been there for him. I've worked my whole life. I supported him. I took care of him.
Did he live with you growing up?
We both lived in my mother's house.
No.
I moved out when I was in my 30s, 32.
And how old was he when you moved out?
About 15, 14.
Okay. You know, I understand you say you had no real issues, but you went further. You said he was your best friend. I mean, you felt very close to him.
He moved to Florida. He would call me every day. I would be cooking. He would be fishing. We'd be on the phone 2 hours. When his wife left, we were together every day.
Mr. Merchant, you see things very differently.
Oh, yeah.
You said, we had a terrible relationship
Oh, yeah.
when I was growing up, and I lived with my grandparents while my mother completely did her own thing.
Absolutely.
So why don't you tell me your version of what your relationship was like?
I lived with my grandmother since I'm like pretty much born.
Okay, and was your mother living with you?
No, she was always with whatever boyfriend she was with at the time. She was always hanging out with them, sleeping at their houses. I mean, I could recall waiting for her to come home many days, crying at the window, and she never came. To be honest with you, I don't like my mother very much. I never did. So the fact that she says we were best friends, very confusing to me because she was never there for me when I needed her, ever, my whole life.
But you acknowledge she came to your
I called her.
this time.
I called her. I told her she left, and I said I was scared to lose the kids, and she told me I need to get a lawyer. And I said, well, I don't have money for a lawyer. Can you let me borrow it? And she did. She let me borrow the money.
Okay, and you two have reconciled.
Yes.
Right? So you had difficulties last summer, but this is your wife, you're back together, you're not separated.
No.
Said she was leaving and was going to take your kids with her.
Well, I just was scared she was going to take my kids, and she was telling me that I should get a lawyer because if I don't get a lawyer, I'm going to lose my kids. So I hired a lawyer.
All right, so Ms. Merchant, already we have a disagreement.
Yep.
Tell me what happened when you received a call from your son.
I was in Florida taking care of my sister. She had a stroke. John called me up and said, Mom, exact words, Mom, I need you. I said, what's the matter, John? He said, Kayla left, Mom. She's going to take my kids. I have to get an attorney. He had already spoken to the attorney, and the attorney called me right after I got off the phone with John to get my credit card number.
And the attorney was asking for a $5,000
$5,000 retainer.
All right, Mr. Merchant, you had already chosen a lawyer, you already knew the retainer amount.
I mean, we had talked on the phone before I called the lawyer back and told them it was a definite thing, but I was calling lawyers before I even talked to her because I was scared that something would happen.
All right, so you told us earlier you were going to borrow the money.
Yes.
So was it very clear that this was just a loan?
I never said I wasn't going to pay her back.
Okay.
She wouldn't agree with me on what I owed her, so I stopped paying her because I'm not going to pay an imaginary amount.
Okay, so you maintain all along
Yeah.
that this was a loan.
I paid her $2,100 back out of the $5,000 so far, and she said that the interest on her card wiped out all the money I paid her.
Okay.
So basically what happened was I gave her like $1,175, and then she gave me $1,000 from my aunt's GoFundMe and said she was going to put that towards the bill to help me. And then when my wife had told her off, she said that wasn't happening anymore.